Hello.
Hello.
How are? Hey, how's everybody doing? First of all,
You caught me sipping.
perfect timing. Take another sip and then answer it with coffee in your mouth. That's coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's exactly what we were looking for.
I know, right?
Colton, where's your coffee?
Right here.
Oh,
Monster Energy.
that's the healthy variant of coffee. I want to do. I should probably one of these days. I want to drink like some Earl Grey tea or something, or like sleepy time tea right before we go live, and then I'll struggle to be awake for the whole time, and then you guys will be full of life and energy. Maybe it'll balance this all out.
I think you should smoke a pipe.
Just like
Crack pipe.
yeah, that kind. We should I always wanted to get one of those long like. The problem is that I don't have a mustache. I don't think you. I think if you, yeah. I don't think if you smoke like a traditional tobacco pipe without any facial hair, then you're like a hipster, and it's kind of cringe. But if you got like a long mustache or something, then you're like dignified and wise. What do you think about that?
Okay.
Yeah. But without a mustache, I can't grow a thick full mustache, and so without it, it just doesn't seem to work out.
I would smoke a pipe without a mustache.
Well, I don't
You
know.
don't have that option, unfortunately. But would you get a curly stash or a handlebar mustache?
Oh, if I could grow a mustache, I would definitely do like the way too extra version where it's like French and I like curl it up at the tips. I would really like to have it curl up. Honestly, here's what I really think. I would want to grow it out and then have like 2 nose rings like this. And I would curl it and then I would tie it to the nose rings. That way my mustache would never come loose.
And braid it. Yeah, braid it and then feed it through. Yep. Okay.
Yep. But see, there's so many things. I think that's why God didn't give me any facial hair, because he knew that I would go to extreme lengths to be unique or too creative, It would ruin my reputation.
Definitely creative. Hello, Samantha. It's called a meerschaum pipe. Meerschaum pipe. What is that?
I'll take a look at it real quick. Are they those aren't the like the corn cob pipe and things, you know what I mean? Like you just got like see here.
Now you need a Sherlock Holmes one, like a little hat.
Oh, this is what she's talking about here. Hold on, actually, let me give me 1 second. I'll show you. I'll show you what she's talking about. We'll we'll go ahead and move on over here, and right there. Well, this is what she's talking about. This.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
That
One of
looks like an
those.
instrument, like a wood-wind brass hybrid instrument.
It really does, doesn't it? It literally looks like
Yes.
yeah. But I wonder what kind of sound it would make. Do you think it'd sound like a flute?
No, a
It sounds
tuba.
very squeaky. It looks very squeaky.
No, I say
Like
a
a
tuba.
kazoo.
Now,
So-
here is my pipe. Actually, it goes on my teapot.
Say it looks like a handle to something.
It goes on my teapot that it broke off. But look, everybody comes in here. Everybody comes into where I'm at, where I stay all the time, and they're like, "Huh?" But it has a hole in it. Like, look, it. Let me see if I can get it in the camera. Like,
Yeah,
you
it
could
looks like it's
actually use it as a
still.
pipe. Look, it's got a little hole. Like,
Where'd you put the filter? Also, man, I bet any tobacco would taste terrible out of a metal pipe like that.
probably.
I think metal
it's
pipes are
cool.
reserved for hardcore drugs.
But
if I'm
you
not
know what?
mistaken.
I think I'm just gonna get a hat and sit here and pretend to smoke my teapot.
You are more than welcome to do that, and I will definitely hit the record button and use that against you for the rest of the time.
Oh my gosh. Ah.
So what does a crack pipe look like, by the way? I'm just curious.
You can't say that on here.
A broken
gonna
pipe?
get us-
A pipe with a crack in it? A cracked pipe. That's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah. What? They're unique. They're like artisanal.
I wouldn't know. Honestly, I
Okay.
wouldn't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could if you could grow a mustache, what kind would you have?
Me
Yeah.
or Colt? Oh, I've never actually thought about it. I've thought about what if I had a tail, but not whether if I had a mustache. I think I'd have to do the handlebar too. Yeah, I just don't think there's any other way to have a mustache that's unique unless you have like the little gel and the wax and you curl it on the ends.
I guess, honestly, if I could grow facial hair like consistently, I think the one thing that I would grow is the Doom Rider, like the big freaking sideburn. Like it's like a whole half beard on both sides, and then just shave it right down the middle. You know how like sometimes you see dudes on like a big old chopper, and
Yeah.
it's like they're designed so that the wind catches it and it like flaps out like a squirrel or something.
What about
That's
the Hulk Hogan mustache?
oh, the
Yeah.
The Hulkster, man. He dyes like different portions of it. It'll be like dark in the middle with like a bright soul patch, and then like the outside of it. It's amazing actually how much work that a bald man will put into his facial hair. But I think those are the rules. If you're gonna be bald, you have to have good facial hair.
Let me see. I'm wondering. Oh no, did I do something?
Do what?
I
Huh?
think did I change the way that this looked? I didn't mean to.
I don't think so. I don't know
You
what you're
don't
talking
think?
about.
Okay. Okay.
No.
All right. I thought I had hit the wrong thing.
Well,
Um,
no, I don't know. It looks good to me. But anyway, hello and welcome everybody at home and who is here with us now. This is another this is another episode of no, this is Humanetics, and we're going to talk about things that are wrong or things that could be better with ourselves and other folks. And today, I just wanted to. Today, we're going to talk about the concept of mindfulness, because I think what is happening right now in society. I think everyone says society is going bad, and I think every society with the internet says that about their own culture. But I think honestly, we're kind of regressing a little bit, and I think it's in part due to a lack of mindfulness. And I don't know if you guys know much about what that is, being like aware of yourself or how you think, or how you feel and stuff like that. You guys have any?
I mean, I think all the time, so I'll let Colton start with that one because I like
Well,
to think that I'm mindful.
Reword the question very shortly.
You have any experience or like times in your life where you're like, man, I got to figure out what's going on with me or something, like, where you just kind of like take time and be just kind of be
yeah,
alone with your thoughts or something.
Well, for me, I think it's been an ongoing journey for quite some time. Ever since I was probably 18, and I feel like that's probably the case with a lot of young men. Like with the pressures to succeed, like often not only by society but by your family and friends, like they're gonna grow up to be something great, whatever. There's always like that drive of like, especially when you don't know how to get there, like if you
Yeah.
really want it, you have to, those things kind of just end up coming across eventually. Um,
So, do you care to share any of your experience or like maybe like a time that it helped you or something? Maybe you saw something, maybe like had like an epiphany or something where you're like, wait a second, I've been thinking this my whole life or something, and you changed because of it.
um, well, I did reach a point. I think one of the biggest ones was like you is I came to a point where I realized like nobody was gonna come and save me, right? If I like mess up, like because like growing up, like you can get out of a lot of things, or your parents can save you from things, or you whatever, and then you get older, and for me, anyways, I think that was one of the biggest epiphanies was that yeah, nobody was gonna save me from my actions, and I have to answer to everything eventually.
Yeah, that's that's a big one. I have my boss at work. He's a really good guy. He's actually younger than me, but he talks about that a lot. I think that's which I don't know. He's one of those guys that like when he was in a low point, he listened to Andrew Tate a lot. Like a lot of guys need like a role model of some sort, and that's just something that like no matter what is going on, he'll mention it. He'll say that like, yeah, when I was at my lowest point, I realized that no one's gonna come and save me. No one's gonna come and help. I've gotta fix everything or do everything myself or something like that. And whether that's entirely right or wrong, it's definitely a good direction to start. And it's I think kind of realizing that it's like a transition from like childhood to manhood is like, damn, I'm on my own, really. And
Yeah.
Is that a male thing though? 'Cause I'm listening to both of you are saying the same thing, and I'm thinking I never expected anyone to save me. Like I really didn't.
well,
So is
let's
that just is that a female versus male thing, or what? What do you? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
well,
It could be like part for me personally. I got away with a lot of things, when I was a teenager and a kid, and then I got away with a lot of it just for being a kid, And they're like, he's a kid, like cut him a break, But as I grew up, I realized like I couldn't do that anymore, Like my actions would have real consequences.
Yeah. I mean, I
did
guess
you
I didn't get away. I didn't get away with that much. I was good. I didn't.
Well, but
I didn't have
also,
to get away with everything. I never did anything wrong.
I mean, I
also,
really didn't.
oh, sorry. I also find it kind of interesting, like a interesting phenomena of how people have these like, just like huge epiphanies on what seems like to be basic ideas, like to me, or to some people, it's like, like to mom, uh, uh, damn it, forgot what I was saying. Forgot what I was saying.
That
Well, there
happens
you
from time
go.
to time.
Yes, it does.
I
Um,
yeah, you go ahead.
no, go ahead with the thought. I'm just sitting here thinking. I guess I just didn't pull a whole lot of. I pulled all my shenanigans as an adult. I didn't as a kid.
Yeah. Colton mentioned his mother, which reminds me of my dad, who had a lot of stories that from when he was a kid. Apparently, he was like a real hellraiser or something, which was crazy because, like, to me, he was like bland and like almost like there was nothing to him, And I tell you, do you ever ask your parents or grandparents what they did for a living? When they're retired or something like that. You hear some crazy stories, and my dad used to do I think he like he was like wrapped up in like I don't know, he would I think he would gamble sometimes, and he was a big member at the pool hall, which I think where he was from was it meant more than playing pool, I don't know. But and my last name has got like a particularly tied history to it, where like all the folks on that from that lineage, they're all troublemakers and stuff like that, And I just I don't know, I guess maybe part of mindfulness is just as you get older, just like being able to see you and the people around you and realize that there's more to it than. When you're a kid, it's just kind of like, I want food. How do I get food? Or I want candy. How do I pitch a fit and get it? And then later, that's another, high school doesn't even really prepare you much. They're just like, all right, good luck. You graduate and then you're like, all right. And it feels like you're going to take the next step. And then everyone's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, you got to find the stairwell to take that first step. We don't know where it is, And I think.
So would you say that mindfulness then is something that you don't learn until after you graduate high school or even further? I mean,
I think that you don't learn it until things are bad for you. Some people don't ever learn it. Some people don't ever see things and like, so I think there's like multiple perspectives. There's like first person, like, I want this, how do I get this? And then like stage 2 is like seeing that other people also want things. I think like ancient civilizations would like throw a virgin into a volcano so it doesn't rain or something, you know? They're like, oh, the volcano must be angry because sometimes I get angry. And what does it want? I don't know. I want virgins. Maybe it wants and so you know what I mean? It's like, and I think eventually you reach a point where you're like, you can kind of see yourself like from the third person, and you're like, why do I want this, or how do I, you know? Because I think the next step after seeing that other people also feel things is like, okay, how do I get what I want? You know, and then after that, it's like, is this even right? I think that's the hardest step for people to make is after wanting something, seeing that other people want something, and deciding like, how am I going to use this to get what I want? At a certain point, you start to like take a step back, and then you see that what do I have to offer? What do I give to the world to get back? You know. And I think there's a whole study on like, you know, the different levels of I forget what they call it, but it's basically psychological awareness or perception. But I think mindfulness is often at that like stage 4 area where you start to look at yourself and you're like, well, why am I this way? But I think if I had to define mindfulness, it's just the exercise and the ability to perceive yourself, your thought patterns, your biases, upbringing. And especially being able to catch yourself when you're acting in a way that you've already decided that you would like to change. And I think a lot of people start to maybe see that in like therapy and stuff like that. But
well, okay, that is going to be very interesting with some of the articles that I have found that talk about mindfulness maybe from a different perspective, from a criminal perspective. So we'll eventually get there. But it was kind of an eye-opening thing for me as well. I'm like, I wonder if I was a criminal, if I would think this way. I think I would. That's the problem. I was like, yeah, I could see me being a criminal and thinking this way too.
so, real quick then, before because I definitely want to dive into those. I saw the titles for those articles, but I didn't get a chance to read them. So I'm curious to see what that perspective is look like.
Yeah.
But so I kind of wanted to ask, like, do you think that why should anyone care, right? Like, I think it's easier to just go and do the things that you want to do and just live that way. And at some point you'll see, oh, I don't know how to get what I want. But some people just like when they're like confronted with societal pressure, like Colton had mentioned, like in high school, especially for, you know, guys, and they see people around them trying to achieve and do more, and et cetera, et cetera. Some people just don't care. They're like, screw it. Why? I don't want to be a part of this, you know, or whatever. But so why do you think that it is important to like practice mindfulness or to like practice like self-awareness?
Absolutely.
Why?
I mean, well, I guess it depends on your perspective as far as your development as a human, because for me, mindfulness for myself is, you know, making sure that I don't encroach on other people's rights and beliefs while still maintaining my own sense of identity. Um,
Hmm.
and because I mean, literally, you're not going to change my mind. Okay, we can have a debate, and I can make you never feel attacked. I can make you feel heard, but you're not going to change my mind because I know who I am and I'm very mindful. Now, if you can provide me evidence that I'm wrong, that's different. I'll listen, you know, and rethink it. But basically,
But
I
you're
think
secure enough in yourself that you're not going to be swayed by how someone else feels about something.
exactly. I may look at it from their perspective, take a minute and look at it in their shoes. What if I were in their shoes, But and I think you can understand the way someone feels and the reason they believe what they believe without changing your own moral code or
Mm.
ideals or and stuff. I just feel like it is possible to give
Yeah.
respect to somebody and still not change.
That I think requires mindfulness because you have to know yourself well enough to be able to accept, contradictory or conflicting input and be able to see it and still maintain your own perspective. I think, but yeah. So I mean, I think that it has a lot of good, practical uses. I
I
guess you'd
think
say
that.
that's the.
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Okay.
Uh, I think that a good way to practice it is when you're arguing with someone and they say something that you may not disagree with, and while they're saying it, you, instead of trying to think of a rebuttal, you try to listen very mindfully, and the way that you can practice it is like when you go to respond, you rephrase exactly what they said to make sure that you're understanding it the same way that they were trying to interpret it, and then you give your response following that. And if you practice that, that's a good way to uh, well, not to just be overly aggressive for one and try to prove everyone wrong, and you might learn something.
True. True. I think a lot of people sometimes they just wait until their turn to talk when they're having a conversation with somebody.
True.
But so let's see what this article was about. This it was a criminal who thought he was a good guy or something.
Yeah, let me see. Let me get back to um just let me share my
Which I want
screen.
to
Oh wait.
I'm going to go back to that in a few minutes, Colton, with ways to actually
Hey,
start to practice.
can you
Hey, that's
take
me.
your yeah, please if you'll remove your stuff.
Yep, my bad. You can. Sorry,
All
that's
right.
you.
Okay. Is it in the right spot now?
Boy,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
embarrassing. I hope nobody pauses on that exact couple of frames.
That's our outline. It's okay. It's our outline.
But still, no one wants to see how a sausage is made. That's
I do.
BTS.
I do. I want to know how the sausage is made because I'm not eating the sausage if it's not made
Until you know.
well.
Uh,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
still discourage anyone from pausing on those frames. But if you really want to take a look at my very loose outline, then yeah, there you go. Anyway, please
Okay.
go ahead.
Now, I came across this article. The criminal views himself as a good person. And at first I was like, oh, how can you view yourself as a good person if you are a criminal? And you know what, now this is from 2011. I do have another article as well, but okay, this is a quote: "If I thought of myself as evil, I couldn't live," said one unaliver. Okay. So basically, your person who has committed this crime of unaliving someone says, "If I thought of myself as evil, I couldn't live." Okay. And I thought, well, why wouldn't you think of yourself as evil? But just keep going. Just because I unalive somebody doesn't mean I'm a bad person, asserted another. Okay, so perhaps the most surprising discovery, according to this article, of trying to understand the criminal mind was that without exception, offenders regarded themselves as good human beings. No matter how long their trail of carnage, no matter what suffering they caused others, every one of them retained the view that he is a good person. I mean,
Really?
yeah, yeah. So chew on that for a second. I'm like, how? How? Okay. So here we go. How does one man's walking walking crime wave retain the view that he is good at heart. There are many components to this perception. Some point to their daily activities of going to school or working as evidence. Others cite their religious practices, reading the Bible, attending church, wearing a religious symbol. Because of their talents, they are good people. Some are artistic, play musical instruments, fashion quality products in a wood shop, and so forth. When others commend them for their creativity, their sense of being a good person is enhanced. So, I mean, I started thinking about, I guess, this is the thing. Apparently, people have the self concept of because I do good in this area, I am good. And I would say that is not mindfulness. That is not being having any sense, in my opinion, of self perception. But what do you think?
That is fascinating. That almost seems to like play and work off of like the karma system. You know, like I may be a bad guy, and my goodness, I can't figure myself out here. Sorry. It's like it's like points in each bucket, and if the good bucket outweighs the bad bucket, then you're a good person or something, which is kind of bizarre to me. But
yeah, it's
I
not.
guess
only
how do you? Go ahead.
No, it's only not only bizarre, but it's completely untrue. So how do my question, and we have just started in the article, but my question is, how do you get the fact that I wear a cross, or I play the guitar, or I create something wonderful in a wood shop? How do you get that as to I'm a good person? Okay, yes, I know that I unalived 6 people in cold blood, but I'm a good guy. Like, how do you come to this self concept?
I always thought about that phrase, by the way, in cold blood, as like opposed to what, like, well, it was warm. It was the way I did it was very kind and considerate, No, but no, honestly, I really think it just comes down to like, what do you value as good? What does being good look like? I think it's the definition or the lack of definition, or needing a reframing on that to say, what does it mean to be a good person? What is being good actually look like? And for some people, maybe their sense of goodness or whatever is so in the case of a guy who was committing atrocities against other fellow humans. Maybe it's just that his moral barometer is just so far twisted in the wrong direction that he is still. The thing that is interesting to me is that he's still attempting to be a good person, quote unquote. He's still trying to have some sort of balance in goodness, which is it's bizarre. It's strange to me. But I would definitely want to speculate a little bit about that later. Like why even bother? Like if you're going to be a serial unaliver, then why don't you just commit? Really just accept it and be that guy.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I mean?
but people apparently can't live with themselves if they think that about themselves. So, in the end, are people just lying to themselves to, you know, get by, or do they truly believe this? Is that, you know, is it
I
true
don't
for them?
know. I don't know, but I definitely okay, screw it. I was going to speculate later, but I gotta say that what is it about the intrinsic sense of justice that people have in themselves that requires them to want to behave in this way? What is the deal? What is it in people that say, yeah, no, I need to try to be good, even if I'm not, even if I have like all those evil thoughts and feelings and all this. How do I be good? How do I, you know what I mean? Like, why care? Just commit to being the bad guy. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, is it religion? Is it, you're afraid of going to hell, if you're the bad guy? Or is it just because there's that part of us that, unless your conscience is seared, that says, "Oh, I need to be a good person"? Because I think that everybody up to a point has that as well.
Maybe that's the first time that like the whole, going to hell topic has been good for folks. And it's like, well, at least they try to do something right, even though they're like definitely not a good guy or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think we intrinsically think that, I mean, we're taught, or most of us are taught to be good people. So maybe we just can't reconcile when we're not. I mean, I don't know. I was going to look more on this article
Okay, go ahead.
because
Keep
it's
going through it.
crazy. It's crazy. Okay, so how do people think this? Okay, another component in the offender's view of his own decency is that no matter how tough he is, there exists within him a deep well of sentiment. I recalled an unaliver who would not step on a bug because he could not bring himself to kill a living thing. Can you imagine?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He was a
No, not the ladybug. No. I mean, what?
I'm sorry.
I think it's actually not that hard to convince yourself that some people or things are innocent and other things aren't. Like, um, and also find it interesting that there's criminals that will do criminal acts like go around and rob people's cars and steal their catalytic converters and all this kind of stuff. Uh, because they don't know the people. So it's like to them, they don't have the same level of like significance or human aspect to them. They're like an object basically. Uh, I don't know. I think I think it could be different for different people, and some people are like domesticated into certain like frameworks of like maybe they grew up and their family was like racist, like or I don't know that I think a lot of ideas are domesticated and people don't take the time to form their own like ethical framework. Um, and that's maybe not mindfulness, but just self awareness and reflection. But I think without doing that, it's not hard to become evil. And a lot of people have done studies on Hitler and how he rose to power during World War II, and how someone could come to think that they were doing the right thing. So that there's a lot of really interesting studies out there about that.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of that is peer pressure too, and group collective thinking. Um, but what you said about and touching on this is a hot topic, so I have to be step carefully here on the tube. But you were talking about racism, and I remember a time in the South where your good Christian people, okay, your preachers, your deacons, the whole nine yard, the ones that are definitely going to heaven. So everyone thinks, and they believe were also terribly racist, but they did not see that as a problem. Their self perception was that there's nothing wrong with this. But clearly, we know there is. So, I mean, but like you said, like some people can pretty much talk themselves into anything, I guess.
Oh man, you say I remember a time like that. I literally went to a place that was like that. It's. I mean, to be honest, this church was out in the middle of nowhere. It was in a small community city. I don't know what you call it. Not even barely a township. Like a village.
Yeah.
But they were, I mean, they also had iPhones, you know what I mean? Like they were connected to the world, but they were that exact same way. And the thing that is so interesting to me is that the difference between the criminal who is trying to convince himself that he's a good guy and this group of people who are also trying to convince themselves that they're still good, even if they like harbor hatred or whatever, is almost the same. That's the same person to me. It's the same type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm talking about, I know that kind of stuff still does exist, unfortunately. But this was as a whole, society as a whole, a bunch of years ago. Um,
This was
you know,
accepted everywhere.
yeah. I mean, it wasn't a thing, like, and differentiating between races, and we're better than you, clearly, was not even a Christian problem. You know, I mean, we've come a
Interesting.
long way since then, but again, it's the same concept as we're talking about in this article about self, concept, perception.
Real quick, it might have
Uh huh.
something to do with this. Buckeye Clayfan said, "I think we're kind of social animals. We feel like being good will let us get along with others better." Which, by the way, I love the way that this covers your face here. It's just you can only see your mouth. Anyway,
It's okay.
maybe that's part of it. I think reframing what goodness or what you should strive to do or become is just simply not really foundationally applied in society. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
I have my own opinions, and I'll talk about those later for sure. This is our show, and I'm going to say what I want. No, but I think, I mean, I really do think that what is good, or what do you strive for to be good, are like so subjective, but there's no real foundational descriptor. I mean, even Christianity is just like, I don't know, don't steal and don't make love to your best friend's wife unless he dies or something. It's like, wasn't that part of the, was it if your brother is married and he passes away, then you have to marry
Yeah.
his
Widow.
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
so
it was kind of crazy.
Uh,
But
I'm not making any promises to my brother, but I don't think either of us agree with that one.
uh, Here's another idea. I think it's also fair to recognize that some people, or people have different IQs too, right? And I think there are some people that are genuinely incapable of creating like a complex ethical framework, and they adopt just adopt all the ideas from people they idolize, or like their parents, or maybe a celebrity or something, and they just follow, or even politicians, like people join the MAGA army, and you stop questioning the things they say.
That's definitely part of it. I think it's easier. It's so much easier to just pick somebody and say, I'm just going to do what that guy said, because thinking about it is hard and it hurts my brain. I've been in
and
that. I've been in that boat before.
and also, it makes you have responsibility. If you
Mm.
Okay, so if let's say, I'm on the MAGA train, and then Trump says something, and I'm like, hey, wait a second, I'm not 100% with you on that. I mean, it's happened before, but I don't see myself as, I mean, I guess my identity is not in that group. So, I mean, I've always been an outside the box thinker, and I'm like, wait, hold the phone. Wait. Okay. It's kind of like Project 2025 when Jamboree and I did that. Idealistically, yes, it is conservatives' dream, but there is nothing in those statements that say how they're going to implement this. I mean, you can implement it fairly, or you can implement it in the same mode as Nazi Germany. So, don't give
We
me a
were
set
to
of ideals.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think probably most important anyway with any of this kind of talk is to instead of talk about the goal you wish to achieve, let's talk about the things you're going to do to make these things possible. I think that's the really only thing to debate, because when we talk about which, by the way, we should probably do like another Project 2025 type of deal. There's a whole lot about it that I don't know, but I think
Yeah.
what it seems to be at the core of it is that it's talking about more or less their ideals for the future, as opposed to ethical and practical ways to make these things happen.
Right.
Which, I mean, is, I think, inherently the biggest flaw, because I think it gets people arguing about the wrong thing.
Right.
What's right and wrong? No one can even agree on that in the first place. So
Yeah.
I seen a good quote. It says, "Mindfulness isn't difficult. What's difficult is to remember to be mindful."
yeah,
True.
no, I think that is true. I think it's easy to be mindful when you're alone in a room by yourself. You're like, oh, I should probably stop being so hateful to my parents, or or I'm just mad all the time. I got to figure that out. But like when you get mad, you don't care about, but like I should stop being mad. You're like, I'm pissed, dude. Let me be pissed off. And then later you might be like, I'm mad all the time, but I think that's definitely part of it. And I think that's a little bit about what you're talking about when you were saying, like, when you're having a conversation with somebody, to be aware, I guess, of what that person is saying. I think there are definitely levels to it. I suppose what we can do either next week or some other time is just kind of do like a more detailed breakdown on like different stages of mindfulness, because I think mindfulness and like I think I brought it up earlier. It's like the stages of awareness or psychological perception that kind of allow you to be in different stages. And this is kind of for later, but I think a lot of religions also kind of point towards, I think a lot of principles point towards like how to become more mindful. But there's also this: you shouldn't put your faith in people. They will always fail you if you want perfection. Everyone is both good and bad. And I think that's another thing is, it's difficult to, it's one thing to say, oh, I want to be a better person. The other thing is, the thing that's hard is when you're trying to do better or be better, and then someone like cuts you off in traffic, or they, or they break your heart, or they break your trust or something. It's like, all right, buddy. Well, I was playing by the book, but for right now, all bets are off, and I'm ramming you off the road. I learned how to do a pit maneuver watching Spike TV in 2004, and I'm about to show you what it feels like to be pitted. You guys ever want to do? I'm sorry. Do you guys know what a pit maneuver is?
No.
So it's something that police do during like a high speed chase or something like that, and they can't get the guy to pull over. They say they take it and they try to pull up right next to you, and then they try to push your car with the tip of their nose, and like it just spins your car around, and it makes it essentially so that you're facing the wrong way, but you are kind of like disabled for a second. And there's been so many times where someone will do something crazy to me in traffic, and I'm like, my car costs $800, and you're driving like a $40,000 SUV. First of all, people will be aggressive in like really expensive vehicles. I'm like, this is barely a box with the wheels. I will damage us both without a second thought. But the other thing is that at the very least, you deserve like a reality check to be spun off the road for something, But that's another one of those like, I should be a better person, I shouldn't think that way type of ideals.
I don't know. I think we get stuck in, this is just my observation. If people are mindful at all, and a lot of people aren't, they're mindful of themselves. And it's almost me versus everybody else. I don't think people are mindful from the other person's perspective, saying, okay, I'm this way, but let me be mindful that the other person feels that way. And so something that, in relationships, especially in friendships, whatever, one person can do something, and in their head, like, let me just take an example. Sometimes I'll do something stupid. I know. Don't, everybody go gasp. I can do some really.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're lying.
I can do some really stupid stuff. And, a lot of it is, just emotions, the way you're feeling, whatever. And we do something. And so my perspective is, okay, when I'm over it, I expect you to be over it because I'm over it. I'm being mindful. Right. I have apologized and said, okay, I went off the rails, excuse me. I had a moment. And it's not always easy for other people to join in that,
I wish I could highlight that comment or pin it or something like that. I've dated so many girls who will be upset and they will like fly off the handle. They'll say some like truly evil, nasty, like they'll take like my deepest, darkest secrets and throw it in my face. And then like in a few minutes, they'll be like, I'm sorry, I got a little upset. And I'm just like, I'm fuming. I'm upset. I'm hurt. I'm like, we still got to fight now. Like, and she's like, you want to go to like Hobby Lobby or something, And I'm like ready to throw hands. I'm like, what do you mean? You said my mother did this and that, or whatever. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. I guess it's just one of those things. Like it is tough to see because you can't. No one's a mind reader, but my God, would it be helpful?
Well,
You
I
know,
mean, I don't do that. I don't use people's deepest, darkest secrets. But I mean, it's usually me. It's usually I am in a mindset or I'm in a mood or whatever. But yeah, we expect the same. Like you said, she expects you to just say, "Oh, okay, I'm done." But see, I'm
just
like
be fine.
that. Yeah, I'm like that. I can get really, really mad, and I can yell and scream, and fire shoot out my eyeballs and my ears, and when I'm done, I'm
Are
like,
you a
okay,
1990s cartoon?
yeah. When I'm done, I'm like, okay, hey, it's
Yeah,
over.
like the
All right, we go into dinner, and they're like, ah. So I'm like, I'm not mad anymore because I just vented to you. But
I,
everybody is not that way.
I tell you this one thing that I've done to overcome that is that if someone is mad and then they hurt me and then they get over it, I make sure to make them mad again so that way we can fight about it. I'll say something
Oh yeah.
else. I'm
Some
like, all right.
people can be annoying too because like they get mad like really quick and then they get over it really quick, almost like bipolar or something. And then it can sometimes take a while to get me mad. And there's some people that don't feel like the argument has been completed until I've gotten mad with them. You know what I mean? And
Well, no, I mean it makes sense. I think for some people who are more logically minded, the argument isn't over until you've at least both voiced your side of the equation. But if you're emotional about the whole thing, you still feel that way. It's not over until I've gotten my part out, or at least we've shared that with each other or something like that. But I think all of these principles are part of mindfulness, to be sure. I think that let's see here. I wanted to
Women
get to the
are
rest of that
like that
article.
sometimes. Yes. I was just like I said, women are like that sometimes. Yeah, most of the time. Most of the time, that's us. All right, I'm going to go back here to the article. All right. Okay, talking about people who can harm a human but will not harm a bug because it's a living thing, nearly all affirm that there are others who do terrible things that they would never do. Those people are the criminals. Anyone who knocks a little old lady down on the street and steals her purse should be hung, declared one teenager. But yet, this same youth invaded a home while the owner was present, terrorized her, and cleared out some of her most valuable belongings. So, and some of these words I can't say in this article, but basically, it's a matter of perspective. Oh, I'm a criminal, but I would never do that. So I'm not that bad of a person, even though I did this, which was
Yeah,
horrific.
and that brings up a very interesting comment that Samantha Springman said. Everyone has a threshold. Once pushed beyond that, they will do the quote unthinkable. Some can
Hmm.
take more than others. To me, the question should be, when is it acceptable to do the unthinkable? And I think part of that definitely is, again, if you're not. I think sometimes for people like me, I have spent so much time like I was unaware that I was practicing mindfulness. I just knew that I wanted to know more about me and how I thought and how to fix it and stuff like that, because I had gotten in trouble with friends and hurt people's feelings and didn't even know that I was doing it and stuff like that. But for some people, they don't ever have an experience that like pushes them into the edge of like thinking about themselves and stuff like that. And so they just take like, what is that threshold? It's just whatever that
Yeah.
person kind of feels. It's part, like Colton said, about your indoctrination and your background and stuff. But like, yeah, here, for example, the military sometimes will say it's acceptable to do an unaliving during wartime. The courts say that if you have a mental break, it's acceptable. But like, even what constitutes a mental break, like, and that would kind of depend on the judge. That kind of depends on the jury. It kind of depends on the area that you're in. Like, how bad was it? Um,
Well, can I tell
it,
you a story? And
go
this
ahead.
is horrific. I'm going to tell on myself, okay? This is bad, and I'm sorry to y'all that love me. Um, but this is just pure honesty. I had a situation this past week. Like, this week was off the charts for crazy stuff to happen. And I had a family situation in which a family member was harming elderly people. My mama being one. I mean, it's like this is the South. I can talk about my mama all day, but don't you say anything. Don't you hurt my mama, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm in a situation where it is it is horrific. What has been done is horrific. I am so angry. Like I am so angry. And I was at work when all this occurred, when I got the call that this situation was going on. And I sat there. I got very quiet. I know my boss wondered what was wrong with me. And I was sitting there contemplating. I thought, okay, I've got pepper spray. I've got a taser. I can leave here and go to Walmart, buy a baseball bat, and I thought I am going to beat the living stuffing out of this person. And I mean, I was seriously contemplating. I'm like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. This was in my mind because I was so mad. And, then I started thinking, well, if I do that, I'm going to, first of all, go to jail. Secondly, I'm going to lose my nursing license. If I lose my nursing license, I will probably lose my house and car. Um, is it worth it? And I'm literally thinking, well, yeah, half of me is saying you dang right it's worth it. I'm going to whoop her rear end. That's what I'm going to do. And I sat there and I finally contemplated enough and I thought, no, I guess I'm not going to do this. Let me think about a legal way to do this. But, to me, if I had done that, I wouldn't have thought of myself either as a bad person. I would have thought of myself as an avenger.
Let me ask you this then. Why didn't you consider hiring somebody else to do it?
I did. I just
you did.
I did.
I just didn't have the contacts.
No, literally everybody I knew who would do that is currently in jail. And I'm like, dang it, they're all here. Dadgummit. Nobody out there to do this for me.
Well, that's a very interesting perspective. I don't know if I've ever been. I've never really been in that situation myself where, like, again, it's really just like, what is acceptable? When is it acceptable to do the unthinkable? And I guess that was it.
That was it.
For you, that was your threshold. I've never been there. For me, which this is just me, but every single time I get into a position where I'm like that, I just assume that it's a better opportunity for me to extend my threshold. You know what I mean? Like which I don't know. Maybe it makes me like a sissy or something. But I don't know. I think every time I'm presented with an opportunity to enact vengeance or violence or whatever, I prefer to use that as an opportunity to all that energy and from angst and anger and frustration. I use that as an opportunity to question myself and see how much I can take and push myself to become more able to withstand things. You know what I mean? But
No,
I guess
not
at a certain
me.
point,
Not me. I'm like, I'm gonna whip somebody's rear end, and then when the fog clears, we'll decide. Then I'll look at my self perception.
they
Right
always say it's
now,
better to
I'm
ask
gonna kick somebody's rear end. That's what I'm gonna do.
better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. That's what they taught me in sales, apparently. I guess that's part of it too. I guess for some people, if they see someone committing an atrocity or something against a loved one and you don't act, they might respect you less. They might just decide that you are a weak person, that you weren't capable of doing anything more than that. Do you think?
I mean, it was
Is it better to?
That's like a jailhouse mindset.
Well, where I work.
Okay, for example, say that you're dating a girl and you're in public and some dude walks by and touches her and grabs her, something like that. Like not super, but enough where all parties involved are like that just happened. And you are full of rage, but that that's not an acceptable reason in the eyes of the law to injure somebody. There's also the chance that you lose. But there's also like what she thinks about it. I think a lot of women would expect you to fight for them, and I think that I might, just punch a dude or something, But like, is it better to just like? I guess my real question is, can we ever get to a point in society where seeing someone contain themselves is more like manly or more strong to contain yourself rather than just to act on impulse like that? You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
I mean, in some situations, yeah.
I mean, I think to be honest, it's also a matter of like intelligence, like uh, because like a lot of I would think that anyways, like because going back to the jail thing, how like a lot of people act in jail is like very like animalistic and like I'm bigger, I'm tougher, like you know uh, like an animalistic kind of way as opposed to like thinking about what they're doing as good or bad. It's just like I want what I want, and they'll justify it by any means necessary. Whether it's like because they'll find a way, like this guy's done something bad in the past, and I can justify it by that. They deserve it. Um, or sometimes even if they've done good things, some people view it as like a license to now do something bad, or they look at themselves as a victim or look at the person that they're hurting as or like dehumanize them or make them you know less than like having uh, inherent human rights. I don't know.
Well, I wasn't thinking about any of that. I mean, literally, I was just thinking about rectifying the situation that the law
Well, no,
had
it's
not done.
subconscious, and you're not thinking about like you're not making a list of pros and cons, and well, maybe you were, but maybe
I was.
not like moral pros and cons. They were more of just
No. No,
I
morally, I
wonder
didn't have
then.
a problem with it. I was fine.
That's, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I suppose if you did it and you saw, that's another thing when people do like they commit violence or something. Sometimes they'll see after the fact the face of the person that they brutalized or whatever, and then they have that moment like, was this really the right thing to do, or was this worth it? Or a
Yeah.
lot of times was this like, did this even help?
No. Yeah.
I guess part of that is mindfulness, but I guess it just to me as someone who because I'm on the other side. I kind of lean towards like almost indecisiveness when stuff like that comes up because I'm like, what's the best thing for me to do? What's the best thing for everyone around me? How is this going to affect people? Is this going to make me a better person? Is this going to make me worse? Stuff like that. And sometimes I just end up not doing anything because I'm trying to figure that out, and then the moment passes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I would say that it would not have been the most brilliant decision that I ever made. And is it animalistic? Absolutely. But I felt like it was defending someone who was unable to defend themselves, and um, that put it in a whole different perspective for me.
Yeah. I guess maybe there'll come a time where I'm presented with that choice that is just beyond. Like I'm not able to have the time to sit and think about it, and I just have to act on impulse, you know. But I
Yeah.
guess I'm kind of phrasing all this incorrectly because I think the key is what are we striving for as good people? What does it even mean to be good? If you want to wrap up this article, I think were there any other things in there that talked about like
Um,
how
yes, it talked about remorse. Let me go back there. Okay, the capacity to experience remorse supports this view of inner goodness. I recall a man who broke into a woman's home and made off with jewelry and priceless heirlooms. When he learned the victim was suffering from a terminal illness, he returned everything he stole. The remorse he felt in this one situation bolstered his view of how compassionate a person he was. It did not deter him from other break ins, but, uh, you know, there you go. I guess It says that just the last paragraph, and this will be finished. Men and women who evaluate and counsel offenders must understand that no matter how terrible their crimes, criminals regard themselves as good people. They already hold themselves in high esteem. We should not seek to raise their already lofty opinions of themselves, but instead must endeavor to help them look in the mirror and see themselves as the predators that they are. And I mean, I think working with criminals, I would say that is true. A lot of people do have an inflated opinion of themselves. Not everybody. Some people commit crimes. Like, for instance, if I had gone to jail this week, um, it wouldn't have been, a habitual thing. I don't,
Yeah.
nose punch somebody who cuts me off in Walmart or whatever. I've thought about
Right.
it,
But
but
that actually makes me think about something, which is not really anything that I had written down, but I really wanted to talk about this now that I thought about it. We've been talking about, I don't know how to frame this briefly, but I've been talking about how to take a situation and, against the odds, against the clock, against being wronged or being treated unfairly, and how to turn that into an issue of self where I have to overcome how I'm feeling, right? And I think that same concept applies to criminals a lot of the time, but for the opposite direction. As in, how do I no longer let this affect me so that I can continue to get what I want without, guilt or consciousness or anything like that? Like squashing that part of them that rises up. Do you guys? I know that I think you've both mentioned that you've worked in law enforcement areas and stuff like that. What do you think is more common for people to try to become better, or to intentionally try to become colder so that they can act like with less consciousness? Like, I know the military kind of beats it out of you. They you just act on impulse and orders instead of what's ethically correct.
I think part of it is based on the environment, and if you're in like jail or prison per se, like the changes you have to make in yourself in order just to survive, is a big reason for that. What do you think, Mom?
I think that I think that some people, I think in jail, habitual offenders, this has been my perspective. Habitual offenders are very impulsive. They don't have that self perception. They're not introspective. They want what they want when they want it. Okay. And so, but now you get some offenders in there that are really just going to be one time offenders, or they're in there for traffic tickets, and that's not the same at all. But definitely, if you're talking on a prison level and stuff like that, yeah, it's the lack of self restraint, which I did almost have myself this week. So I mean, what can I say?
Well,
Um,
what do you think then? What do you think it should be framed as then? What is, like, for example, here is a Buckeye Clay fan said, "What about just being your best self by being good?" And that's the hardest question to answer. What is good? What is being good? What does any of this mean? Like, is it simply to not act, or is it to reach a point where you don't feel anger? Or actually, he mentioned earlier too somewhere, thinking of doing a bad thing isn't the same as doing a bad thing. But I will say, if you're thinking about doing a bad thing often enough, you will do the bad thing. I don't think
Yeah,
anyone's
you
immune to
will.
temptation.
Hmm.
And I think that over time, if you don't fix the root of your frustration and stuff like that, yeah, eventually you will just start doing bad things, which will allow you to feel, which will allow you to think about doing bad things more often, which will in turn make you do more bad things more often. So what is good
Yeah.
then? Like, we can say some basic things like don't injure people, don't steal from people, but like that's not a goal. Those are just like boundaries, more or less. What do you think the goal of becoming a good person is? What do you think it actually means to grow?
I think it depends. I mean, everybody has a moral code, and for a lot of people, it's either religion or culture, and that is where you get into some things that I in culture would consider horrendous, other cultures do not. For example, there are very strict rules that Middle Eastern countries have with women and stuff like that. And if these women violate those codes, it is okay in their culture to unalive them. In this culture, it is a big problem, and I have a big problem with that. But I mean, and biblically speaking, there's a problem with that. But if your culture says this is the way we do things and that's how you're raised, how are we ever gonna find a middle ground?
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest argument for. There's a lot of philosophical, ethical debate on can you have ethics without having religion and stuff like that? And I think it's because the core problem is that without religion, it's difficult. It's cultural. It's individual. It's interpreted by the individual or the user, like what is good, what is bad. And I think I don't know. For some things, it really is just about like foundational issues. You can't say that I need to change in this area if it isn't made public and made like common, if it isn't cultural that you should change in this one area, say aggression towards women or, even lying a bunch. Some people don't see a problem with it. If no one gets hurt, that's another thing. It's like, you do what you want, just don't hurt anybody else. And people, that's reasonable, but I think that gives way to doing things a lot, like becoming a compulsive liar, which doesn't necessarily hurt anybody, but it will cause you a lot of like mental issues the longer that you go through that.
Okay, but
and of course it can hurt people. Of course it can have negative, impact on people close to you. Like, if you're married and even if you're not cheating or whatever, but you just lie about where you are or what you do or things like that, that's going to break trust and that person's going to be hurt. Or, you could, you could lie and it hurt people. But I think when people say just don't hurt anybody, it's more along the lines of like, don't do something that is going to put someone else at a disadvantage or that's going to like, physically injure them or like emotionally cripple them or, stuff like that. But, then you have to create lines within the act of lying itself, what not to lie about, what to be truthful about. It's never about is lying good or bad, And I think what's so interesting is that the Bible, for example, says a lot of things like very cut and dry, like don't do this, it is bad. And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, but what about the nuances and all this? And it's fun to theorize, but I think even just having a foundation, don't do this, it's bad, really gives you a lot of like, like an anchor point to start to come back to. So,
I mean, yeah, it does, but again, you're looking at. I mean, and I believe that way, but again, you're looking at other cultures and things like that. Let me ask you a question though, because do you have a large moth in the room that you're in?
Me? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was seeing things.
No. The room that I'm in is mostly windows, and it's like on the exterior of the house side. So when it's nighttime and there are lights on in here, every bug and moth. I literally got stung by like a mosquito type creature came in here, flew in, and it landed on my arm. I tried to blow it off, and that thing was like glued on. It freaked me out, and then it immediately stung me, and then yeah, but that happens like on a daily basis. So you'll see flies and moths and things in here.
That was just big, and I just wanted to know.
Maybe one day I'll train one to like land on my finger, and then I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see it or something.
Oh, that would be really cool. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, cool, not creepy. To be a master of moths, like a somehow worse version of Aquaman, who is already the worst version of all the superheroes.
Definitely.
Just get like a bunch of moths or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Colton? about like how do we determine what's good? I mean, I know for me it's the 10 commandments, it's the biblical. But how do we yeah,
Um,
who makes
well,
these rules?
obviously, everyone doesn't believe in the Christian ideals, right? But I heard somebody say once, like this is kind of a good good start, anyways. Is is if you were to sit on your bed and ask yourself what stupid things you were doing, and if you were to sit there and think about it long enough, you would find something, and that's always a good start, um, because everybody is obviously starting in different spots, and also. Uh, I also you said something about everyone has a moral compass, and I don't. I also wonder about that because like people have very like different personality traits, like uh, narcissistic or psychopaths and sadistic people and Machiavellianism. Um, and so obviously you need to like foster a community where people can talk about like their personal issues, but also having people that are giving good advice, like that know what they're talking about, and obviously like that kind of sounds like church, but not everyone is so open to that idea, right? So how do you go about kind of working towards that?
I mean, if I were to sit on my bed and think about what stupid things I'm doing, I give myself 15 seconds before something pops in my head. I'm like, "Yeah, oh God, you're an idiot." It wouldn't take very like I'm not kidding. It wouldn't take very long. It might not
I
even take 15 seconds.
I find that fascinating as an evolved human myself. For you all to say, if I were to think about it as if there is a choice, I don't know. I don't understand the concept of having a choice. I'm constantly like, what am I doing that's stupid? Oh yeah, and I'm like, I'll be like driving my car. I'll be like working on something actively, and then in here it's like, hey, you should stop doing this or whatever. It's just like, why don't you do this better, or why don't you do this differently, or why do you see or think this way? I don't know if it's just because of like, practice or what, but yeah, no, I don't know. I think there's like an endless stream of questioning myself and poking and prodding myself that is my default now. I don't know how to escape it.
Well, I guess it comes from the idea of like always just trying to be better, like the main goal, trying to be better than you were yesterday. So I forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah, but if I'm good a bunch of days in a row, can I like be bad one day? I mean, you
Hey,
know,
no, you don't get any cheat days. That's the first thing they tell
I
you.
needed a cheat day this week.
If you get a personal trainer and you're like, hey, so when do I get a cheat day? He's going to tell you, you don't get cheat days. That's bad for you. It upsets the system.
I
And I
need a
think
cheat
it's
day.
true. Let me ask you
I
guys
really do.
this: if God didn't exist, some people believe that. Um, if he doesn't, is church still good to have and go to and listen to?
Mm.
And how what's the best way to interact with a church that you don't believe the God of?
Well, I mean, it's a good moral code.
It's a good community, good you know, way to have something
Yeah,
to
but
do
is
every
it
week and people that are looking forward to seeing you and call to check on you. And
so? Let me ask you this: do we need God to exist to have church?
Well, I,
was it if
Of a
you
sort, right? Like to keep the structure, but like take God out of it. Is that still good?
I don't.
I often wonder if it would be the same, like if it would just be the same thing, the way that churches are these days.
Yeah.
But um, huh,
What do you
the
think,
reason
Silky? Oh, go ahead. No,
I
so
would
go ahead.
say, um, the reason I was gonna go back to this real quick. How I said the idea was to be better than you were yesterday. That also entails like mostly being like a better thinker and trying to be a better skeptic than you were yesterday, because in a way I think everyone's on their own journey, and when you try to push ideals or morals to people, they don't take kindly a lot of the times, like unless people are looking for answers, they don't like answers being presented to them, you know what I mean? Like, that's just uh at least my experience with people. So I think that the idea of trying to strive to be a better thinker and a better critic will eventually lead people. I still am kind of debating this in my head, if it leads people to the ultimate answer, if everyone searches long enough, if everyone will eventually arrive at the same answer.
Mm. So instead of
I don't
being a
know.
good person, do you think it is more efficient to just pressure people or push people to just be more mindful instead of being religious or being a good person or being the good guy or trying to stop sinning or whatever? Do you think it would be more efficient to just push people to be a better thinker and be a better skeptic and critic of themselves and things like that without
Okay.
a foundation?
I mean, you could just use the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, is that a good way to live? Yeah, I think it is. Not everybody's going to do it, but is that a goal?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's different though. That's tough because for me, I already do that. Like, but it's often not to other people's standards, right? Like, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna badger somebody about something they believe if I would not also be comfortable. Like, I'll be like at a football game with a corn dog in my hand, and someone's like, "Why do you believe in God?" It's kind of silly, isn't it? And then I'm like, "Well, it's fun. That's a fun question." Well, so it all started, and then I'm comfortable with that. But a lot of people, when they're eating a corn dog, they're thinking, "I want to eat this corn dog." And then someone, might come up with something or unexpected situation, and they're like, "How dare you infringe upon my right to freedom to eat this corn dog in peace?" What it's like. So I think the golden rule is kind of nonsense because everyone's threshold is
No.
different.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I think so. I mean, honestly, some people,
Well,
some
yeah.
like serial murder unalivers. I was trying not to say the K word, and then anyway, I picked a different. Anyway, I honestly, I think some of them wouldn't mind like being like assaulted because they live by that code. They live by that mindset. So how does a golden rule help anybody when
Yeah,
in
also
that
I also
frame?
have disagreements to the golden rule. Um, for one, obviously people have different preferences and needs and different cultural differences. And so like, okay, in a relationship like between an employer and an employee, right? You wouldn't want to treat you might not want to treat your employer the same way you'd want to treat them, because it would perpetuate the inequalities between each other. Um, Also, some people have like self-sacrificing behaviors, where they feel the need to put others ahead of themselves, and that can also lead to unrealistic expectations of expecting other people to do the same for you in return. That can, obviously leave you disappointment or resentful. Um, and also, people often act based on emotions, um, and not how they really want to be treated. Like when people are angry, uh, people when people are angry, scared, or stressed out, they might act in a way that isn't that would contradict their true values.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Prime example right here. Uh,
yeah,
but I think what you said is really important, Colton, about talking about kind of like we were saying earlier about relationships. You know, I go off the rails, I make somebody mad, and then I'm over it and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry. Like, I had a moment. And then they can't get over it because I am now imposing my set of standards on you. And I'm like, well, I don't know. What's wrong with you? Why can't you get over it? Why can't you let it go? What the heck? You know?
yeah.
And that's not really fair to them either. And I don't ever get that. Because I expect people to think like me, and that's, I mean, I'll say that's wrong. That's wrong, and then we hold it against people. Like, okay, well, you've got a problem, buddy, because you can't let stuff go. Well, they're not me.
Yeah, and that's a difficult. I think in this list, or this tier list of psychological perspective, I think that's tier 5 is not just being able to recognize that other people have their own thoughts and stuff like that, but being able to actually see them more clearly, like, based on where they come from or their upbringing and stuff like that. Being able to see and understand that people are not you, and that they will see the world differently than you do.
Yeah,
and
they're wrong, but that's okay.
Which I kind of want to apologize. I had like an order and a list of all this stuff, but we've kind of gone all over the place, and I don't really know where to go from here. But
I do want to say one thing though, and this is when the moth distracted me. What I was thinking is, you were talking about, okay, do what you want, but don't hurt anybody. Did you know that is like the law of Satanism? If you read the Satanic Bible, that is the primary law. Yeah, do what you will. I think it says something like, do what you will, but harm no one.
No, that wasn't on the that was something that was written on those big old stones. What, wasn't it?
No, it's also a principle of Satanism. Satanic Church. Yeah, look it up.
Hold on.
But I mean, and it can also be a principle of witchcraft, because knowing that, I mean, we're going to get into somewhere we don't want to go, but I mean, basically the law of what they would call karma, what we would call you reap what you sow. But that's why when you do a spell of harm against someone, you know that it can come back on you. It's very likely that it will. So that's why they're saying, like, don't harm people. But I don't see, but can you do that and not harm people? Like, can you do what you will and not harm people? Because I don't think you can.
I didn't find the origin.
I think that depends on your moral framework in order to determine that. There are some people, like my grandmother, who is so religious. I think she could, well, she's a little bit nutty, but I think basically, I think she could live the life that she wanted, just being out on a plot of land by herself and not bother anyone. I truly believe that.
I mean, I could harm none and be by myself, but can I be around people and do what I want and harm none? I mean, because again, like it can be something simple. It can be that there is a fly that is trying to get on my plate, and I kill the fly, and it offends the person across the room. Like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's a living creature. I mean, can you do anything?
At that point, I put the dead fly on their plate. It's that simple. So there was Buckeye Clay fan said, mindfulness is a bit overrated. You can overthink everything and never get anything done. And there are actually a lot of therapeutic principles to that. A lot of with the tier list of like psychological perception, that's actually one of the biggest pitfalls. And then Jonathan Cena said, then you aren't being very mindful of wasting time, which I think is ironic. Also, I love that. I just love that name. It made me. I couldn't stop smiling and laughing at it. But yeah. So that's the other thing is like, and that's what I mentioned before too. Is that I got trapped as far as indecisiveness. But then being mindful that because of the things that I was trying to decide on how to be, I became a worse version of myself. In that regard, because of indecisiveness or because of wasting time. And I think that's just part of like, again, this principle, which I saw a quote on it, your right to swing your fist stops where my nose begins or something like that. And I think that's fine. That's a good place to start. But I think, what Colton said was very profound. It's just that, to be better than you were the day before is more or less just about becoming a better thinker and becoming a better skeptic and a better critic. of yourself. And I think that that's a great place to start. And I think that is why, even though I think religion is very important, I think that foundational structure, like moral and ethical structure, is massive, and it's found a lot, especially in like Christianity. I think that's important and all, but it doesn't do you any good if you are just following it blindly, because you'll reach a point where you're like, I don't want to not, like, I'm not married, but this girl is hot and we've been together for a while. It's like you have to be able to challenge yourself to change and be able to see. You have to be able to challenge yourself to see yourself honestly, because if you can't, then you are going to, try to follow rules, and you're going to not be able to do that because you're not going to know why you can't or why you feel a certain way. I think.
But shouldn't there be certain standards? I think there should be certain standards. I mean, thou shalt not kill. I mean,
well, I think that your standards should be able to evolve over time. And I think that there are certainly, again, good principles like, don't kill, don't do things like this.
Are there nuances to that? Like, say someone's been in a coma for 20 years and it doesn't look like they're coming out of it. Their family can't afford to keep them, but or I don't know, or your cat got ran over and it's suffering. It's clearly not going to live. Do you put it out of its misery? Or what about like criminal, like justice, whatever, like people being put to the death sentence? What do you think about those? Are there like exceptions?
So I think for some of those things, especially that last one, we talked about this on Masilki's channel a little while ago, but for serial brutalitators.
Brutalitators. That's not like mashed taters. That's brutalitators.
Shut up. Anyway. No, so instead of the death penalty, I think that they should just be, it should be legal to make those people slaves. Like straight up, just make their lives miserable because that's what they have done to other people.
I assure you they are in prison. They are.
Well,
their lives are miserable.
But sometimes, if they're the head of a gang, they might live lavishly.
Oh, that's true.
Have a cell phone, have a TV, have all the drugs they want. Sometimes
some prisons, I think, what was it, Norway? They're literally just like furnished apartments. You just can't leave. But I think it's Norway, because I think I was watching a documentary on like where like the origin of death metal and all that came from. And a lot of people were doing crazy things, but they were going to jail, and it was just like free housing. They literally couches, televisions, like a pool table and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have to work their way into that system. I don't think they get placed in there right away. They have to be in regular jail for a while and then prove that they aren't violent and that they are trying to better themselves and whatever. There are some requirements. You don't just get free housing and,
Yeah.
Well, at that point, why not just be released for good behavior, But
well, you know what they do in our state, and a lot of people are fighting about this and saying it's cruel and whatever. And in the state of Alabama, they use criminals to work at McDonald's and stuff like that, which those who have worked at McDonald's, I've never worked at McDonald's. I have worked fast food, but not there. They say that's probably worse than jail. I mean, it's not a great job.
Someone who has worked at McDonald's, let me tell you a little bit about it. Their systems are designed to give you mental anguish. They are designed worse than like the CIA's like waterboarding. It's literally designed to cause you to have a mental snap and lose all sense of self so that you just become an employee. I swear, it has got to be like a psychological program. Like, how many things can we make beep at the same time? How can we make you stay on edge as possible and always afraid that you're going to make a mistake until you just quit, trying or something. It's crazy. It's craziness.
But I mean, and a lot of people are saying that this is not fair, that Alabama shouldn't do this. This is terrible what we're doing to our prisoners. We're making them work. Well, I disagree. I do disagree on that. I think, I think working is a good thing for prisoners or jail
I mean, they do like,
inmates.
roadside service. What is it called? Picking up trash and all that.
Yeah, that I
Um,
mean, to me that's tough. That's more tough in the Alabama sun. That's rough. But I mean, a lot of people are fighting this, and they're saying this is not fair. That we're keeping people in prison and in jail so we can get free labor. And I mean, I'm
They're
like,
not
well,
they're not forced to work.
no, they're not, and I don't think people understand that. It's voluntary, pretty much. I mean, if you want to be on work
I
release,
mean, you
but
get like extra
but
privileges sometimes, but
I do think that if we have somebody who is like convicted of I don't know. It's tough because if you have the opportunity to create free labor, then you're going to have a bias towards sending people into that pile.
yeah, yeah,
I
that's
think that we
true.
should have a like a secondary like jury type of deal. One where we have a judge, and then one where we just only have a jury of people who don't know the law or something. I don't know. Multiple like who are not involved with like any regulatory bodies or who can't be bought, and they just say if someone is guilty of the death penalty or not, and then we make them slaves. I still think it's a good idea. I just think it's the implementation that needs to be fixed. But are you responding to this
Eh,
because I highlighted this while you
yes,
were
I was
talking
gonna.
a second ago?
I was going. Yes, you know what? Hey, exactly, exactly.
Who
And
wants to use a cell phone that's been in somebody's butt?
uh,
Some people actually will pay more for a cell phone. That anyway, sorry.
yeah, that's probably true. And
Depending
let me
on
just
whose it was.
yes, and let me just say this, and then we can stop the jail talk. But there are very few objects in a jail that have not been in that particular place. Okay, this is
That reminds me of a
everything goes
story.
straight there.
That reminds me of a story you told me sometime one time about corn cobs or something like that. But we'll we'll
Exactly.
ignore that one for now. That's
Yeah.
that's like extra content. That's like what is it? Like if we ever did have like a
Members
Patreon or
only.
something.
Yeah,
Members only.
members
That's
only.
a story that we definitely would have to tell
Yeah.
because that's wacky. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I'm definitely all over the place now. I don't really know where to go from here. I guess I just kind of want to real quick say like, okay, so mindfulness pretty important. What are if you could just name a couple? What do you think are the benefits of going through this annoying process of caring about yourself and thinking about yourself in a way that's like, how can I be better or why do I care? Like, what do you think good comes out of that?
I mean, you're a better
If you can put it
person. You're better,
briefly.
and you're not just a better person for yourself. You're a better person for those around you.
Sure. Colton, what do you think?
uh, yeah, I agree with Silky. I think that I think people have a moral obligation to try to work on themselves, and if you can successfully get your own life together, then you can then maybe be able to help your family get your family together, or be there at a tough time, when say a loved one dies or something, and be the one to hold the family together. And then if you can manage that, then you might be able to go out into community and help your community as well.
Well, sure.
Okay, I have a
But
big
that's a lot of
question.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, no, no. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a lot of work to for because some people actively try not to be because they know the people around them will be able to pick up the slack, and it's better for them, it's easier for them. So are these reasons that it's worth it? Is it really worth it to go through all this trouble if until you really need it?
I mean, well, definitely some people are not gonna. They're gonna take the slack. But I have a big question. Okay, we're talking about mindfulness of ourselves, and let me just say that I feel like some people have never been and probably will never reach the point of even being mindful of themselves or having any kind of self-perception. But what is the point that y'all think that someone who is mindful of their own actions actually gets to be mindful of those around them? Like, what steers that?
You, are you what, so you're asking, like, you're saying that like you have to be mindful of yourself to a certain degree in order to have the right or the ability
No,
to.
no. I'm like, okay, some people are never going to be mindful even of themselves. Other people are going to be very mindful of themselves, but not mindful to those around them, like the corn dog guy. Okay, so what happens, what chain of events, what sparks someone who is mindful of themselves to then go outside of themselves and say, oh, well, if I feel this way, then other people may feel a different way. How, like, what is the thought process that gets
Well,
someone to that point?
well, I think it's important to differentiate. And I think we did in the beginning the difference between awareness and mindfulness. And I think mindfulness is more of being in the moment. So being mindful in a way that would respect other people would be like learning how to read a room, like learning how to read people's emotions and faces, or like, and that for some people that comes naturally. But I do think it's also that something that can be learned. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of like, it's just being mindful of what's going on in the moment, how you feel about it, how other people might feel. And it's just like being as, yeah, like being as mindful of as many things happening right now. Well, no, I mean, I guess it depends, right? Because kind of a blend of mindfulness is like just like, say you were trying to meditate or something, right? Would that not be mindfulness? Just trying to like not let your thoughts wander and just capture your own breath and just think about it. I think most people would struggle if they tried to just solely think about your breathing for like 60 seconds straight and not let your mind think about anything else.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, so there's definitely a difference. I think awareness is what you're talking about when you're saying, like, reading a room and reading other people's emotions. And mindfulness, definitely, actually, meditation is one of the core, like, if people who talk about becoming mindful, especially in particular, a lot of those people say that meditation is one of the best ways to do that. I think that I developed my own form of meditation on accident, but I think Silky's question was a little bit more about, or I'm going to at least reframe it to this. We reach a point where we start to see, okay, this is why I feel this way, but I still feel this way. What are other people feeling? And almost every time, until you go to that next level, you look at other people and how they feel based off of how you feel and nothing else. You don't have the ability to say that person has experienced these things. This is what they go through. This is what they think. And so they are likely to feel this way, where I would never feel that way because I don't possess that ability. Or I don't come from that, whether it be cultural, it'd just be like a different place. It could be a whole mess of different things. But where's the line between because I think the line between seeing yourself and seeing others is almost the same line, because the moment you're able to start to see how you feel about things, you will almost instantly recognize that other people feel similarly, at least on a basic level, as far as, baseline emotions and things like that. You will start to recognize that every action that you take will have an effect on somebody else in your immediate
Okay.
vicinity.
I mean, that's true, but I don't think most people think of that. I'm going to say, to answer my own question, I'm going to say that people have to go through a reasonable amount. I'm not talking about severe, but a reasonable amount of discomfort or pain in a situation to understand where someone else is coming from, such as when you work in corrections or law enforcement. You have to imagine what it would be like. You have to see somebody. Okay, I can see somebody and I can say, well, you're really stupid, committed these crimes. However, the fact that I almost went to jail this week would definitely, that level of pain would have made me see things in a completely different perspective. So I guess what I'm asking is pain the catalyst that makes us have compassion and mindfulness for other people?
I think it is the primal catalyst, as in those who are not, which I mean, this sounds so pretentious, but those who are not intellectually gifted enough to be able to reach that conclusion on their own, the catalyst certainly will be essentially monkey see, monkey do, right? Like, oh, that looked stupid until I did that, and now I see you differently because I did the thing that you did. Whereas before you may have just been like, that was a wrong thing to do. You shouldn't have done it, and you're evil for having done it. And then you go and you do the thing, and then you're like, oh no,
Yeah,
there's nuance to every situation.
exactly.
How do I unpack this? And but I think the biggest benefit to mindfulness is that it sucks at first. It hurts. The reason that I began the whole process was because I was convinced I had mental issues because everyone around me felt and acted differently than I did at any given situation. The mine was definitely sparked by pain because I was the pain of isolation or separation, things like this. And it happened really, really early in my life. And so I essentially tumbled down like a never ending path where I just kept looking and trying to understand. And, it started with me like, I want a girlfriend or I want more friends. And then like, well, how do I get those? And then I, would have no idea why I feel different. And then so I'd look at it. Well, how do they feel? Why do they feel this way? And then I'd be like, is it a group thing? Is it because of this area? And then I would have to go back another step and say like, oh, like even if I'm looking at how they feel, my ability to see that is based off of who I even am. And if someone else were at the point in life that I'm at, they'll see the situation entirely differently because of who they are. Everyone's a filter. And then I took another step back, and that is the next step back, is to see that everyone does see things differently, even if they're looking at broad concepts because of who they are. And that's a really hard concept to really absorb fully, because not a lot of people even start to look at groups and areas and histories and stuff like that. But to see that whoever is looking and making these observations is going to have very particular insight based off of who they are is tough. And then realizing, especially most importantly, is that those people and your perception is going to change over time. That's been the craziest thing. The hardest thing for me to see is people I know in high school or knew in high school. It's been, it's been long enough, 7, 8 years, something like that. It's just a long, long time where people can be completely different than they ever were in high school. And when I still see these people around, I'm like, I know they'll be a little different, but I still think like, oh yeah, he was on the baseball team or whatever. It's like, the dude has not even played baseball in years. He's had a child. What kind of person is this now? And I'm still like, in my mind, I'm like, at first glance, I'm still like, oh, that's Bradley. He dated the blonde girl that I liked, and he had a Camaro, and his daddy was a preacher, and just like stuff like that, But life changes you become totally different, and the ability to even consider, but especially start to accurately see how life or how old you are may have actually changed you as a person is really tough. And that just keeps going. There's several other layers past that, but mindfulness really at its core, I'm sorry to keep rambling. But at its core, it does give you almost like superpowers. I really believe. If you go deep enough into the concepts of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, what you were saying about how people change. I mean, I was a very a popularly unpopular person. Does that make sense? I was
like
not
everyone
very
loved
well.
to hate you.
Yes, or love to diss on me. Like, because I was a complete nonconformist in a very conformist world when I went to high school. So, I mean, it reminds me, like, this has been so long ago, but like, I think I first got on Facebook at like in 2009, 10, somewhere around there. And I was reconnecting with people that I liked, that I was friends with. And I was like, hey, I mean, it's good to see you. I mean, they're all grown up now. And, but I got so many friend requests from people who literally hated my guts in high school. And I'm like, Okay, I know it's been a long time, but why are you friend requesting me? You didn't like me then. You're probably not going to like me now. But I accepted their friend request, and I mean, but
It was a secret social experiment where they picked you as the victim. They wanted to see how effective bullying really was over long periods of someone's life.
yeah,
And
I mean, I
you
don't
were the
know, but
result.
but it was one of those things. I'm like, why? Why you didn't like me then? We never talked. You couldn't stand me, so why
They
now?
probably didn't like themselves either. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, but I thought, well, I guess now is the time to bury the hatchet. I guess. I mean, I don't feel one way or another about it. It doesn't hurt me or excite me. It just made me go, huh? Um, but
I don't bury the hatchet. I've got a hatchet collection on my wall just over there. Just like dozens of them, all shapes and sizes.
Okay, I want to ask one more question though. Based
Okay.
on that article, okay, about how criminals feel about, okay, they could have unalived somebody, but they won't kill a bug. Okay, did that surprise you?
A little to hear it, but immediately I was able to understand it because once you think about it for a second, I mean, I guess once you think about it in your own mental framework, you can rationalize it. But at first, you're like, "That's crazy," but then you're like, "Well, I mean, yeah, it's not rational, but I do things that are irrational constantly, to justify." Why do you ask?
I mean, do you think that if they had a true self concept of, oh, I have unalived these innocent people, I stole all their stuff, whatever, I'm a piece of crap. Do you think that people naturally don't are not introspective because they couldn't live with themselves? Or I mean, I
Um,
excluding psychopaths and sociopaths. I'm talking about normal people.
What is normal? I'm just kidding.
No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, do they have to do that? What would happen if they really looked at themselves? Is this the only
Oh,
way
I
that they
mentioned
can
that earlier.
function?
Why don't they commit? Yeah, that's what I said earlier. Why don't they just commit to being the bad guy? It'd be more effective, and you'd get away with more crimes. You know.
I think they do hide it. And then certain times that like it comes to light, like for example, when they go to court or something, and they get uh, they get the death sentence and it hits them, or they hear the victim's statements or their family statements or whatever, and it hits them. And I don't know. I think people. I don't know. I think people just really just avoid it. Honestly, I forgot. I think truly, yeah. I think some people become so evil and they know it that they can't stand to live, and they beg for the death sentence.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, or I guess they can just go into that fantasy world of, I'm not a bad person just because I did all this, because I won't kill a butterfly, you know, or I wouldn't do that crime. I'd only do this crime. I mean, it
Um,
maybe it's self mental preservation.
that gives me a topic to maybe talk about next week. I think we should definitely go more in depth on like why do we care? Why do people care at all? I don't want to necessarily reuse this article, but this article is actually better for a different topic, which is something I asked earlier. While speculating, which is why do people have an intrinsic sense of justice? Why do we naturally want to feel balance? And why is it that when people will go through with the act of committing something heinous or brutal or whatever, that they then attempt to justify it? What is it about humans or consciousness or anything like that that sparks that or that drives that emotion? Because it seems very counterproductive to the criminal mind. If you want to, get your way and do things your way, why would you make it more difficult for yourself instead of just squashing that?
Oh, I've got an article for that.
Well, we'll
Next
talk
week.
about that. Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that next week. And tonight we kind of went a little bit all over the place. There's Yeah, we're practicing, I guess, and part of that is definitely my fault. I kept being like, well, what about this and et cetera. But I don't know. I guess to round everything off, and I just wanted to talk about mindfulness because it's something that and I definitely want to talk about it again better sometime because it's important, and people don't think it's important. A lot of people don't even think of the concept because it is hard to care about anything that isn't just what you want instead of why do I want this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Good night,
I think
Mythical.
yeah, and about to be good night to everybody. Are there any last thoughts that you guys have or anything like that about this whole inner kerfuffle of the mind?
I actually had a aha moment because something upset me very badly this morning, and I was just running off at the mouth. I know that shocks you, but I was talking to Jamboree, and I'm just like rah, 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 and this person this and that, and then when we were talking about relationships and mindfulness, it hit home. Yeah, just because I am okay with something doesn't mean that somebody else is, based on my own behavior, which, like, I'm over it. I'm over it.
Mm,
And it hit home like, yeah, but that's me in this skin. I'm not them in
yeah,
their skin.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll leave you guys with two quotes that I found interesting. The first one is, the best way to capture moments is to pay attention. This is how we cultivate mindfulness. And the second one, I like the second one better. Nothing ever goes away until it has taught us what we need to know.
Well, that is a big topic. I actually had a discussion with somebody on cyclic. This was a friend I had years ago, and he told me, he said, I keep going through the same things over and over. And it's like I keep messing it up every single time. And he said, I think God is going to let me circle around to the same situation until I learn how to handle it. So that is,
That is interesting.
yeah.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that. There's so many things that we should talk about, and there's so much practice that we need. Honestly, it would just be better if we started to do this more than once a week, because I think there's a lot of stuff that I'd like to talk about, and a lot of different topics that I think people would at least like to think about or have some discussion on. Because I think right now we're reaching a point where there's degradation of emotion, or you can call it the soul or whatever, and in one way, and then there's people who are trying to get better, and there's not really good advice. There's a lot of biased opinions and stuff, and I don't know. It would be cool to start to talk about everything like this a lot more often and a lot more frequently, and if for no other reason, just to have like a somewhat median perspective on things, where we all can kind of gather and
Well, I
discuss.
think the thing of it is with this channel is, most of the time people turn on YouTube or whatever, a podcast, to be entertained. And, this one is about let's think and let's be introspective. Let's actually do something, let's discuss, let's look inside and look around. And I mean, I think that's needed in our society,
Yeah.
where we're just flipping through TikTok. You can get lost for hours on TikTok, and you get off there and you're just like, what did I see? I don't know. A lot of
Well,
cats.
maybe maybe we can get better at the entertaining part while we remain introspective. I don't know, but I don't know. I think there's a world. I think there's a definitely evolution for all of us as entertainers or YouTubers or whatever to really start to. I think we have it in us, guys. I just think we got to get there, and we'll keep going until we do. And hopefully after. I don't think it's good to stop when you're like, all right, I made it. See y'all later. But anyway, That's I guess that's everything that I have for today, and next time it'll be better, like it is every time. Hopefully.
I hope everybody thinks this week. That's everybody, all of us. Our homework is let's think, let's be mindful.
Literally, just take like like a minute to sit still and in silence. That has got to be the hardest thing to do in the world right now, is to just do nothing except for be with your thoughts for just a little bit.
Yeah, you could
It's tough.
also people do like daily journals or daily diaries to kind of uh, a way to write down your thoughts and be more clear with them. Also, you could talk with close friends or close family members because they'll often bring up like uh, more mindfulness kind of things like how's your job, how's your family, how's your kids, how's your and um, just make you be more and present in the moment and not thinking about other things really.
Yeah. And if you ever
Well,
want to know where you're slacking, where you're falling short, ask your family. They will have a lot of suggestions. Oh,
that's kind of like that law that the quickest way to find the answer to something on the internet isn't to search for it, but it's to post the incorrect answer. You'll be corrected immediately.
yeah, true, true. No doubt. Well, I
Yeah.
hope everyone has a good and mindful week.
And yeah, I hope that in some way or another that this made you question yourself, as at least I constantly live with. If for no other reason, I want you all to suffer with me. So it's I hope that it has been helpful or at least antagonizing a little bit. And I reckon until next time, you guys all stay human. Is that
Stay human.
is that what-
Stay humanetic. Be
no?
humanetic.
Just stay human.